Implicit bias. How many of you know the meaning of that word? Implicit bias. It's a word that many of us have heard, but we didn't see, and it's a common word, but we live it. I will come back to it. I want to introduce you to the word, first of all, implicit bias. I have two young men that are going to run a 100-yard dash. One happens to be George Washington Carver Jr., and another one is Mr. Stein. Are you hearing me? George Washington Carver Jr. and Mr. Stein. You know nothing of either. They're the same height, build, age. But your life is dependent upon, or the life of your loved one is dependent upon, choosing the winner of that race in this 100-yard dash. Which one will you choose? Which one? See, which one would you choose? If those who know sports, which one would you choose? And see, you sound like the barbershop. That's right. But do you understand what you've just done? You were prejudiced. You just expressed implicit bias based on history and past. You're going to make an investment that is critical. You got George Washington Carver and Mr. Stein. Which one are you going to invest your wealth? What have you just done? You've expressed implicit bias, and you're living because people are expressing biases, and we wonder why we are experiencing what we're doing. But those little implicit biases become your own for you, and they can act against you. Implicit bias. Some are explicit biases. Implicit means you don't recognize, but they're there in you and they come out of you as behavior. And so we're talking about these biases, and I want you to begin to understand now what's happening in our communities, in our kingdom. There is a man that comes from a foreign country that cannot speak the language. But let me go back to another. In Palestine, there are two young men. One happens to be a Palestinian, and he looks out over the landscape of his community, and he sees nothing but sand and heat and squalor. It has been that way for years as he looks out over the landscape. And he sees nothing but squalor. There is a Jewish man that's right next door to him. He looks out the community and he sees a land of milk and honey. He looks out the same landscape and he sees a land of milk and honey. Which one of these two men do you think would transform a desert into an oasis in 20 years? Which one? Why? They both had the same conditions. They both had the same opportunities. Why did the Jewish man have convert, and for years the Palestinian man couldn't? What was the difference between the two? You said what? So one could see because of the history, he could see because of the history that had been promised him on the inside, he could see a future. And the other could see only the past. And so no difference what resources we would have until we change the condition on the, we will have no future on the. And so I can live in a community that have been devastated in our urban cities, and it is poor on the, and I looked and I have lived in this squalor for so long, I have become conditioned. And I can be a new immigrant that comes in and see a land of milk and honey and fought and almost died to get here because I see a land of what? And you wonder why one now owns, why is the other is now angry? Because they have been, one can see on the, they see a future. And the other is asleep and destitute to the past. And so I've come here today, or you've come here today, is to be awakened to the fact that you have a future. But your future, if you just hear this or don't hear it, or womp, 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 your future is based on how you open up your heart to heal.